Well, good morning. We're live. It is 24 degrees right now in the beautiful Granite City. The sun is shining. Those back roads are drying up a little bit. Not so soft. They're stiffening up, which is making life a little easier for those that live on some of these backcountry roads this time of year. Our fifth season, mud season, is well underway. Steve PAPPAS from the Times-Argus sitting right next to me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Absolute pleasure to have you here.
Good to be here.
Yeah, man.
My drive in this morning wasn't bad. My drive has not been bad at all, but I certainly have been around folks who have had some trouble, and we've been having some trouble delivering newspapers. So those of you who are watching who live on a back road over the last week or a week and a half, excuse me, I apologize that you probably have not been getting your paper, nor have you been probably getting your mail, nor have you probably been getting out. But yeah, we've had quite a few delivery hiccups all across the region. So, Waterbury alone had, I think 20 roads posted or closed.
Yeah.
And Worcester had
Washington, Chelsea, just everywhere.
Yeah, the story we had in Saturday's paper about mud season, it's funny because, we end up writing something about mud season every year because it is, it's a thing.
It is.
And,
it's a big thing.
But because the ground was so soft when we had that snow and that last snowstorm and so much moisture went into the ground, there was nothing that the road crews could do. And so all of a sudden, we're writing like a real story about people being trapped and the concerns of emergency personnel. What happens if there's a fire? What happens if someone needs help? And
so true.
And what happens to shut-ins who live on the ends of these roads who, might not necessarily have, ready access?
I never even thought of that. I mean, that's real. That's true. Yeah.
Well, there were town officials. The guy in Waterbury, the fire chief in Waterbury, he was like, apparently during the interview, like really concerned because he was like, we have an obligation.
Of course. No matter what.
It's not like we can call in a helicopter.
Right.
And. So it was interesting. We write this story. It got a tremendous amount of traction, pun intended,
Yeah.
and lots of shares. And people were just crapping all over us and being like, "You're such a bunch of idiots. You must be COVID immigrants to Vermont. You don't understand that this happens every year." And I'm like, everybody who worked on this story is a native Vermonter, you putzes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still news that people don't have, my editorial today talks about how the statistic is that there are 6,000 miles of paved roads in Vermont. There are 8,000 miles of dirt roads. That includes class 4. There are more dirt roads than there are paved roads in Vermont because the main arteries are paved.
Yeah.
Everything that goes off the main arteries are not.
Wow.
Because it's cheaper to maintain them by grading them than it is to pave them.
That's right. Isn't that something else? And we both know, we all know that the mud seasons kind of wax and wane a little bit. We'll have a particularly bad year, and then we may have one or two years that aren't as bad. They're all bad, but some are particularly rough, and it all depends on how much snow we get, I think, right?
How deep the frost, it depends on the frost.
The frost line.
Yeah, the frost line.
Yeah.
And my favorite is when you're driving along and all of a sudden one of those frost heaves comes right up out of the ground and it just kind of looks like a boulder in the middle of the road.
Yes.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
And then you have to kind of go over it and you go.
And hope that you don't hit your oil pan.
Yeah. My neighbor up the road has a little collection of car parts on the side of the road that from people trying to gun through her.
Oh yeah.
That section of road. There's just this little pile of. There's like a fender and a
Right.
piece of front end over here.
And with the real estate boom, with folks from down country that have purchased property here in Vermont, they're learning about leaf springs and frost heaves and shocks and struts. These are all these words in this
Common
vocabulary.
Vernacular.
Yes, it's very true. And
Have you lost your muffler yet?
Right, and some of these dips, it's not always an extended hump. It's often a dip in the road. So anyway, have you caught air yet?
No, I don't drive fast enough. I'm too much of an old fuddy duddy. I don't have a motorcycle. I'm not cool like you with a motorcycle and some jacked up rig.
Right, yeah.
I just kind of putter around town, with my little dog in the front seat, and I'm like, "Oh, Rudy, I hope you don't fall off the seat."
Oh my goodness! This is what I do know. This morning, I had my coffee mug. I've got the lid on. It's sealed. It's even closed. Closed. It doesn't. These lids right here doesn't make a difference this time of year. Your coffee is going to find a way to get out of that cup.
Oh, for sure, and into your lap,
or down into the
or into the cup holder where it just kind of pools for the rest of the season. It smells really good when it warms up.
Well, listen, when it dries, all of the change that you had in there is
it's a clump. I know, I've been there.
By the way, we're getting a word here from Michael Booton that apparently there's a water line leak at the intersection of Beckley and North Main right now. So, results in low flow. Make sure to notify City Hall if there is no flow. So, check your water. If you have no flow, call City Hall 476-0240. That's right here on the post. So glad to see you. Can we talk a little bit about what's been trending in the Times-Argus lately?
Sure.
I know that Dave Delcourt wrote an article a couple of days ago about the flag charter change. That is, there's so much to be said about this, but the opening line, a flag-related charter change that was left for dead a year ago has been revived and could clear the Senate today. What happened?
I don't know, actually.
Yeah.
So I don't know the answer to what happened. That today was yesterday.
Yes.
And I haven't talked to Dave, but that story that story has to do with the fact that the House, there are charter changes have to be approved. excuse me, by the legislature.
Right.
The full legislature, so House and Senate. And the House, and as you recall, voters in Barrie agreed that they wanted to have the flag flying amendment.
Yes,
And
which was town meeting day year ago. 927 to 549 was the vote on that.
And that was the will of the voters of the city of Barrie. Mm-hmm. And so the slate of charter changes that was put forth and being considered by a House Government Ops Committee earlier, well, it was actually late last year, stripped off the Barrie vote. And it obviously caused some concern, and the Senate, Senator Anthony Polina, put forth discussion in the Senate Government Ops and said, no, this is the will of the people. You may not disagree with it. He doesn't disagree. I mean, he disagrees.
He disagrees with
the position, and he said, doesn't matter. The voters of Barrie
voted.
And this is what they want. And if they want their charter changed, who are we to?
Right.
So he is making the push, has made the push to get it back on. And I don't know if they took it up yesterday, JD. Maybe somebody out there in podcast land will know, but and Dave may know, but I have no idea if the Senate actually voted yesterday. I doubt it. They were sounded like they were pretty mired in a lot of other things yesterday.
I just want to read this quick section because I think it's I want to make sure that it's accurate because it's right out of the paper. The charter change was proposed in the wake of a protracted and often divisive debate that was culminated with the month-long display of a Black Lives Matter flag in City Hall Park as 2019 was coming to a close, immediately followed by the January 2020 display of the Thin Blue Line flag. The latter was viewed by some as a simple salute to local law enforcement, and criticized by others as a tone-deaf and racially insensitive response to the display of the Black Lives Matter flag. So
I mean, that's not exclusive to Barrie. That same argument was taking place all over the country, and
yes,
and
very
it,
much.
And it just happened to take place in Barrie because there was a debate on whether the flags should be flown in City Hall Park with the American flag and with the city flag and with the state flag. There's only 3 poles over there, so something's gotta give.
So this charter is basically limiting the number of flags that can be flown anywhere in the state on a city, municipal.
No, it's in Barrie.
But apparently there was someone over at the State House who wanted to fly a Ukrainian flag, and was told it has to be either the Vermont flag, the city's own flag,
or the POW
or
flag.
the POWMIA flag,
Yeah.
along with, of course, the U.S. flag. So there's your 4. So
Yes. Well, yes, but there also can be other places where you can fly flags. So I think I think the question becomes, has been, at least in Barrie, do we want essentially political statements on our flagpoles next to the city, state, and U.S. flag?
yeah.
So, excuse me.
Oof, the comments that are coming in right now. This, and as the article points out very well, the political climate is slightly elevated these days.
It's not going anywhere. I mean, and we can all wish that we're going to get along.
Yeah,
We're not getting along. It's we're in a new world order.
yeah.
We've had a series of commentaries in the paper lately that have not only blasted us for allowing certain kinds of news into the paper, but being critical of us for being hypocrites for actually allowing other kinds of points of view into the paper. And I just received one overnight from an individual down in Rutland who basically wants me to allow him to run a commentary every week that explains why the Republican Party is so great. That's what he wants me to do.
Can you ever win?
I mean, at this point, anybody who is disseminating information, if you're in a position of disseminating any information and you are collecting or gathering information, you are always going to be accused of selecting information that you feel is, you're trying to shape the way people think.
Sure.
So,
which dampers us, because now we're not allowed to, have an opinion. I mean, and it doesn't matter if you're the editor of the paper or if you're just walking down the street. You have to keep your opinions to yourself these days.
Well,
and that sucks.
It doesn't bother me. I don't care. I mean, I write editorials on a pretty regular, well, not on a regular basis, but I probably write 1 or 2 editorials a month that I don't agree with. That they're against my personal, the grain of what I believe. But it's not my newspaper.
Sure.
I'm the publisher and the editor, but I'm not the owner. And I am not, I am the editorial is the voice of the paper. And there are people who tell me all the time, you should be pushing this agenda. You should be pushing this agenda. Well, it's not my paper. I could absolutely make it into something that it's not, but who am I to say that I know what the city of Barrie wants, or the Rutland region wants, or Central Vermont wants? It's not up to me. It's up to me,
or what you feel is best.
That I'm not the best judge of that. But it is my job to hold up the facts about this is what is going on in your community. This is what your boards are deciding. This is what people in your community are talking about. It's up to me to put in as many different perspectives as I can on the editorial page so people can hear what their community is talking about.
Sure.
So that maybe if you are in one position and you read something and you go, that person makes an interesting point, that moved the needle a little bit for me, that it doesn't have to be, I say all the time, we're not really black and white. We've become like we pretend that we're black and white, but we're really all shades of gray.
Sure.
And different things in our lives, you can be a right-wing Republican, and if something happened and along the way something terrible happened and your daughter needed to have a late-term abortion, does that mean that you can't be a Republican anymore because you wanted to save the life of your daughter and you support the saving of the life of your daughter? No. It means that, look at Phil Scott. People, this will fire up the comments, of course. Phil Scott is pretty moderate Republican, but he's a member of the Republican Party. He is pro-choice. We do not know the reasons behind why he is pro-choice, but he is.
Right.
And there are a lot of people in the Republican Party who hate Phil Scott because of that, and they dismiss him, and they would vote for somebody else or not vote at all in that race, rather than vote for Phil Scott.
Yeah. Everybody's very sensitive right now. Even if we like to provoke engagement and comments, and we'll drop on the Aired Out page a question of the day, and my God,
kaboom!
It's like no matter how we word the question, some folks will take it as we've got a slant on it, and we don't. It's all in the eyes of the beholder, my friend. Everybody interprets things differently.
Yeah, well,
it's how we're wired. It's how we're wired.
No, I know, and I get criticized for it every single day, right? Because somebody, the other day we put a picture on the front page of a woman who was selling, I guess it was a fundraiser at Twinfield, and she had ties to Ukraine, and she was wearing traditional Ukraine dress and looking right at the camera, holding a Ukraine flag. It was a silent auction and fundraiser at Twinfield is what it was, right? That's what it was. It was a silent auction and fundraiser. And I had people telling me that I was pushing pushing my communist ways on this community. So a lot of misinformed people out there.
Yeah.
Casting some pretty broad aspersions.
We're quick to judge.
Right. On my character and others. The same way somebody's going to reach out to me, and actually take the time and energy to send me an email and tell me that I must be a COVID immigrant and that I should go back to where I came from because I wrote a story. Published a story about mud season.
Right.
Are you what?
Right.
Have a little bit of tolerance, people. Have a little bit of have a little bit of depth in your life.
Right.
Stop glancing off the issues all the time and just being like, well, that can't be true.
Right.
It's either, I frequent a store sometimes where the owner clearly does not like my paper.
Sure.
Does not like it. He will talk to every person in the store, but he will not talk to me. And I will always say hello to him. I always go out of my way and say hello because I'm not there because of politics.
Sure.
I'm there because I need beer.
Yes.
And, I'm living my life the same way, and I expect other people to hold that same standard.
Sure.
He'll have nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
I am just, he'll take my money.
Yeah.
But he won't.
Isn't that interesting?
He won't engage with me.
I had some ass hat
here. I love that word. I wish that could be in the real vernacular all the time.
Talk to Webster. We'll get it in there. It should be in there.
I think it is in there. I just mean it's one of those, George Carlin kind of,
Yeah.
you can't do it. And
Right.
you can't go, I can't walk up to my elderly friends and be like, how are you, asshat?
Yeah, right. You could call me an asshat anytime.
I do. I think I have called you an asshat.
I think you have too. Yes. Yeah, actually you did a couple of months ago. Yeah, and maybe that's...
And that's why you got the tattoo that said I'm an asshat.
I had this asshat refer to me publicly on my page as a homophobe, which couldn't be any further from the truth. I mean, it's just pissed me off.
Yeah,
I feel sad for this dude because he obviously doesn't know me at all.
I had a similar situation where somebody was being critical of something that had been in the paper, and it was actually during the Berry City election of all things, and it was somebody who did not take any time, just had gathered information from other people in the community, well-known people in the community, and decided for himself that I was a misogynist, and that I did not like people in the LGBTQ community. And I did not respond in such a way as to say, my oldest child is in transition.
Right.
I get it.
You could have said that.
And my oldest child is an advocate for people who are in transition.
Sure.
So,
yeah,
let's have that debate. Let's talk a little bit about social justice and what I understand and what I don't understand.
Yeah.
Based on what I put it into the paper every day.
Yeah.
And
what's the thing there? Assume you make an ass out of.
Assume means that you make an ass out of you and me.
You and me. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I unfortunately have to say that to the reporters on a pretty regular basis.
I'm sure you do. Just have a sign on the wall. That way, you don't have to say it. You can save your breath.
There used to be in the old Times Argus building down where Dollar General is now, at 540 North Main Street. When you walked into the newsroom, there were newspaper clippings and headlines on the entire wall. If you lit a match at the bottom of the wall, the whole building would have burned down because there were so many newspaper clippings up on the wall. Excuse me, on the wall. And it was all the terrible headlines and typos and errors, and it was called the Wall of Shame. And it was at the actual decoration of the newsroom, so that when you sat down to work, if you looked over to that wall, you were seeing years of typos and
reminders that we're all human.
That you cannot assume, and you cannot, make sure you're vetting the information, make sure you're proofreading the information.
Shifting gears, because I know you don't have all morning, Delcor, a couple of days ago, wrote a headline saying the manager's search is headed for the home stretch.
Actually, I wrote that headline, but that's
Did you?
okay. Yeah. The reporters don't write their own headlines.
I gave Delcor the credit.
Don't.
I won't. I retract that.
Yeah, no, the reporters, the reporters are good about telling us what the stories are going to be, but the copy desk, if you let the reporters write the headlines, the headlines would be as long as the stories because they don't know how to.
Well, the city wanted a consultant-led search committee, which...
This is Berry City.
Yeah, Berry City, which we never really got a consultant, and the city was ready to write a check for $12,000 for that. We have a task force of which Rich Morey, this last Thursday, I think it was, decided to
He's all done.
Abruptly resign, basically saying that, quoted here in the paper, things are a little out of control, this whole process, and that it might be wise for the council to take a more active role in the ongoing search. Resumes are coming in, but they're coming in about as quickly as time is ticking here. Steve McKenzie is not going to be hanging around forever.
Well, that's true. He has given his announced that his intention is to retire. Steve McKenzie is a very responsible human being, and even though he has said that, I can't imagine that if they
were in a crisis situation,
he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
He wouldn't leave the city and hold in the bag like that. And frankly, unless you've been in Steve McKenzie's office, it's going to take him the next few months to just clear out all those piles of paper.
There's another paper guy. We love paper guys. He might be a fire hazard over there in his office.
Steve McKenzie may be the ultimate paper guy, but he knows where. I think he knows where everything.
Everything is just like I do.
But yeah, so it's my understanding they've had about
24 applicants.
24 now?
24 applicants.
For some reason, I thought it was only 19, and it sounded like there's actually a decent crop of individuals who are candidates. It sounded like there were some that could be pretty easily dismissed too. But yeah, it sounds like there's
some stress involved here.
Well, yeah, I know, but there always is in politics, and there always is in who gets to make the decision and who gets to make the recommendation. And this task force has had some issues all along, and I think now a quorum. I think 4 is a quorum now. I mean, I don't know what the council decided last night. I mean, I think it was on the. I mean, it had to have been something they're going to discuss because, as you point out, the clock is ticking.
Yeah.
So
we're going to be watching the story carefully, as I know the Times-Argus will, and we will report.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, Dave will have a story in tomorrow's paper.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
So much.
Thank you for having me.
For coming in here.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Look at my new toy.
Okay, Pappas is getting a little nervous right now.
Get fired up, sir.
I'm glad it's not firing up.
Yeah.
Because then it would be firing up instead of aired out.
Yeah, this would
be fired up instead of aired out.
This is the new battery-controlled Nerf gun that's in the studio here this morning. So
Why isn't it working?
I don't know. It's called a blessing in disguise. All right, I have to drive now.
thank you, my friend.
All
Thank
right.
you so much for coming in here. Steve Pappas from the Times-Argus. We're going to shift gears here. We have Jim Grundy, who we're going to try to connect with right now in Texas and see if we can get him on the line. As you are probably well aware, we have been talking a whole lot. Hey, good morning, Jim. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Hey, man, we're so glad to have you on this morning. Now, you're in Texas, right?
Correct.
We have been talking an awful lot on the podcast about the trucking industry, and I have had your name and cell phone number here on my desk for months now. Been wanting to connect with you. Tell me a little bit about you. You are an expert in this. You're the CEO and the owner of Sisu Energy LLC. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we're a trucking company based out of Texas. We specialize in general commodities such as bulk freight, like sand, salt, bentonite, barite. But we also do things, for JB Hunt, and we deliver products, for Amazon as well. But we survived the pandemic and did really well when most companies were suffering, as I had developed a platform that identified individual owner operators, figured out a way to bring them under our umbrella with our name on the side of the truck, so it looks like the truck belongs to my company. And what that did is that leveraged buying power and negotiating power. So whereas one person really can't negotiate with customers, the rate is what the rate is, and they pay retail price at the pump. Because our size and what we do, we probably have the highest rates in our part of the industry that we pay out to our drivers, and our fuel discounts save anywhere from $100 to $200 per fill up.
Mm-hmm. Which is that significant? I'm guessing that's not significant.
$100 to $200 a fill up.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Oh, it is
right now. Yeah. So you think, if you think they're a 200-gallon tank, and depending on where you're at in the country, down here we're pushing $5.50 a gallon for diesel, and it's going up another 30 cents today, right? We're saving of almost $1.10 per gallon.
Okay.
About almost 25%.
So that is pretty significant.
Yeah, it's huge for companies, versus the individual driver out there who's getting no discounts, who's who doesn't have the ability to negotiate or leverage anything.
And this discount is coming down from the feds?
No, it's something that we negotiate with our company direct with fueling programs around the country. It's something that we're doing internally.
Wow.
Mm.
Gosh, I'm sure that the news of what was going on in the Ukraine and the fuel spike, I'm sure that that may have caused you to have a difficult time falling asleep a couple nights.
We work in the oil industry. That's the energy is 95% of what we help with, right? The extraction of petroleum based products. When we saw that, our big concern was, and it's a concern of every oil and gas company out there. And you'll hear narratives on TV that, these oil and gas companies are being greedy or they're driving up the prices. That's just not true. Prices are driven by speculation on the stock market, of which most companies can't influence it. These are global commodities. When you see these massive spikes or these candles that go straight up like we're seeing right now, the scary part in the oil and gas industry is on the backside of it. We know it's going to fall, right?
Yeah.
Now, the question is when it starts falling, typically it's a bit more draconian, believe it or not. And so it's like, okay, how low is this thing going to go on the backside? But when is it going to crest? And right now, we're not seeing any of the symptoms it would take for oil to slow down, and we're all fully expecting anywhere from 180 to 200 to get a barrel right now.
A barrel for as far as we can see on the horizon here for a while. We had Jay Young on. I'm not sure if you know him. Oil and gas expert, author of a book right now that is just popping, and he was basically saying that, Russia is drilling about 11 million barrels a day, but America we are in need of around 21 to 22 million barrels a day, and we're buying most of it. I think we've got about 12 of the 22 right here in America. The rest of it we're buying. So. Anyway.
Yeah. We produce 18.7% of the world's oil. The U.S. does. Okay, but we also consume 35% of the world's oil. So there's a gap of 16.3%. Most of the stuff that we get, we import from Canada. 7% of our supply we did buy from Russia. So now we're looking to either find new partnerships to replace that 7%. But the problem with that is you're seeing our economy and recovery post-pandemic. It's outpacing the world's ability to not extract oil, but refine it.
Yeah.
And get it moving around with supply chains in flux. So that's the problem we're having. It's not just a binary relationship between, hey, if we could pump more, we'd solve the problem. We can't refine the products fast enough globally that we need, because not every refinery does the same thing. And then you think about your summer blends that are coming up in the next 30 to 45 days. All your summer blend pricing kicks in, and that pushes typically gasolines anywhere from 10 to 20%.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Right now, the feds are trying to ease age restrictions for those who can get behind the wheel of the big rigs and move product across our country. What are you seeing over at CISO? What are you seeing over there?
It's completely asinine. The program to put an 18, 19, 20-year-old is completely irrelevant. And here's why. That's not who defines who gets behind big rigs. Insurance companies define who they'll insure via age requirements. And right now, the minimum age to work for CSU Energy or for any reputable trucking company is 25 years old. So why don't we go ahead and put 16-year-olds out there? Let's do 15-year-olds while we're at it. It doesn't matter.
That's
They're not going to get injured.
Yeah, that's one of the questions I was going to ask you is how young is too young to drive a big rig?
It's definitely not 18. there's a reason why insurance companies won't insure someone under 25. They don't do that because it's just a number that they enjoy. They found a target and said, hey, this is a good number. They've got data analytics that show people under 25 do not have the mental maturity and the experience to handle some of these high stress situations. When you're elevated carrying 80,000 pounds down a highway, and you got folks that really don't respect what these truckers do, and they're cutting them off and in and out of lanes. These guys are experts, and they're incredibly good at what they do. And it's something an 18-year-old just doesn't have the experience or the knowledge on. And really, it's a game. You're playing a game with people's lives, and not to sound, creepy with that statement, but you really are. We see it a lot. Our office is 2 miles down here from where that big ice storm in Texas, where y'all saw those big pileups. About 2 years ago, that big pileup on the highway, and it killed so many people. Our office is 2 miles from there, right? You see those things like that, and you think, oh my goodness, can't imagine an 18-year-old who's just fresh behind the wheel, who has no miles underneath him on the highway with families and children. No, it's a terrible idea. Awful.
Do you, Jim, if you had any pushback on your sentiment there that you feel?
No. There's not a whole lot of 18-year-old, 19-year-olds that are really lined up to drive diesel trucks. If you think about what you turn on television, and every other commercial is either an online institute or a degree program. And I've got a master's degree in economics, so I don't, tongue in cheek here. I went to school. It paid its dividends, but it's not for everybody. We have drivers right now doing $350,000 to $500,000 a year in take home, right? More than hedge fund managers on Wall Street. And yet you don't ever hear about opportunities in trucking. And hey, here's a fantastic option for a young 25 or 26-year-old person that's not sure if college is for them, if they want to continue going to college, whatever. We had an electrician out here at the house today with a minor issue, and told me he makes $250,000 a year as an electrician. And I asked him, where'd you go to school for that? He goes, nowhere. I learned it, right? And there's so many opportunities and for people to get back off the mat post-pandemic and get their lives in order, that these opportunities aren't being pushed. They're not being solicited. And frankly, if you look at the FMCSA and what DOT has done to the trucker, they don't make it very attractive being a truck driver. It's not. They're highly regulated. We jump through hoops every day from a safety perspective to make sure that we're staying with the regulations of Texas and the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Act.
Yeah, I think the Trucking Association is saying right now the average age of a truck driver is like 55, and that in a few more years, we're going to be losing a lot of truck drivers if we don't replace them at a faster rate than we're going to be, that it's forecast that we're going to be losing them. How does that balance out with needing to attract a younger driver to replace? In other words, I guess what I'm trying to, here in Vermont, we've got driving schools. Just one of our sponsors alone, Giroux General Transport, is just overwhelmed with younger folks signing up to take CDL lessons. How do we balance this out, though? To get younger drivers behind the wheel, how do they get that experience before they're 25 years old, which is what Sisu wants?
Yeah. So typically you'd have to go to some of these big box companies like JB Hunt, Schneider, Swift that are self-insured to X amount of money, and they have internal safety programs and platforms. They can train you. Unfortunately, there's still the vast majority of trucking companies, they have age requirements because their insurance companies require that.
Gotcha.
What we can, but think about the last 2 years, and then consider how many drivers left the industry in 2020 alone, right? People that were forced to retire, forced to lose their truck because they had no freight to run
Sure.
because we shut down all these companies nationwide. There was no freight. So these guys went home.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're estimating we're short anywhere from 140 to 160,000. That number is not going to fix itself in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and more. And as you stated, 55-year-old is the average age of a truck driver. There's a lot of guys retiring. There's a lot. I mean, even our fleet, our staff, we have fitness requirements, and even that, it's an aging workforce. And it's just one of those things that it's going to take a concerted effort by states and central government, that they're either going to have to provide substantial tax incentives to be a truck driver, probably in the very near future. They're going to have to do something to allow these guys to get behind the wheel. And then we think about what kind of truck drivers are we talking about? 60% of your truck drivers are what they call owner operators. They own their own rig.
Yeah.
Right. Well, right now they can't get parts for those rigs. And number two, rigs are going for six figures because there's a substantial shortage of them. Right. Same problem with regular vehicles that the everyday folk is seeing in every car dealership. The prices have skyrocketed. The cost to repair them has skyrocketed. No one can find parts.
Yeah.
So you've got a supply chain quandary right now just on supplying trucks. So this trucking problem, the supply chain problem, it all comes together. There's a personnel issue. There's an insurance, issue that's exacerbating all of this. And then you put in a global conflict, and it's the perfect storm.
Yeah. Whew. I mean, there's a lot to be said about this. Congress is just pushing for the younger driver. I think I think they're a little bit in panic mode. I mean, look at some of these ports out on the West Coast that were some of these. These barges were just sitting at anchor for days and weeks, and then once we get the product on the land, we've got to be able to move it quickly.
Yeah, and so like that problem there is completely different than that's a state issue,
yeah.
Right? So the state of California, you can't move a tractor inside their boundary, the state of California, without a certain emission test, without a truck that I believe is 2012 or newer. A lot of these guys have got rigs that are 2000, 2003, 4, 5 that are fantastic shape trucks.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
They're by Peterbilt. They're strong. They've got 500,000 2 million miles maybe on the engines. They're all rebuilt. They're great. California says you can't come in here and you can't pull product. So now what you're doing is you're limiting really to a very small number of people that are willing to go to California to pick this freight up. And frankly, it's just not a good lane. There's not a lot of product going to California because they have their own natural port. It's like Texas. Texas has bad freight for over the road. Getting a lane out of Texas is cheap and is difficult because there's a lot of truckers here and there's a lot of product to move here. So there's an abundance. But getting down to Texas, that's where you get good money.
Yeah.
Right? Well, it's the same thing with California. If you can get into California with any decent paying freight and your truck qualifies and you can get into the port of entry, then you can pull you a good lane. But most of these truckers are like, why even bother? Why even deal with it? We can go right there in Arizona. We can go to Chicago's a hotbed right now. You can go to anywhere in the Northeast, Southeast. Those are all fantastic opportunities. And that right there is kind of a self-imposed state issue. And I think they even made a claim by 2035, they'll have no petroleum-based engines for sale in the state of California. They won't even let you, use a gas-consuming vehicle or a diesel-consuming vehicle.
Wow. United States right now has a deficit of about 80,000 truck drivers right now, which is, as we were just suggesting, is going to be growing quickly. You, Jim, and I had to, I did a double take, literally, on this headline. You're offering experienced drivers up to $14,000 a week?
That was last year. That number's no good anymore. We have guys now. We have owner operators now doing 20 to 25,000 a week.
You're kidding me?
Not kidding. That's a real number. We've been doing that for quite a while. Remember, we're 100% owner operators, so these guys own the trucks, right? These aren't what they call drivers, but they come under our portfolio. We negotiate a platform and rates and fuel discounts and insurance discounts. And because we have so many tractors that like our formula and what we do, we have substantial leverage. Our guys, our top 10% of our fleet do 20 to 25,000 every single week in revenue. 80% of our fleet are doing 15 to 20,000 a week. So that number of 14,000 was good last year, and that was a great number. But what we're seeing is that same freight costs so much more now due to inflation, right?
Yeah. You might want to send Jeff Curley an email and tell him he needs to update his info. That's amazing. That's amazing, Jim.
I mean, we have guys. I have drivers that own 3 to 5 trucks, and you wouldn't know it. And they walk in, and they're in overalls. They're very normal looking men, and they're multimillionaires. And they own 3 to 5 trucks. They sit back and collect their money, and they have drivers that run in these trucks, and they pay them well. And each asset generates, on the low side, 400,000 a year revenue. On the high side, 700,000-800,000 a year revenue, and they're taking home probably 40 to 50% of that revenue, and they clear after all their expenses, fuel, maintenance, and everything.
What are your just to close out here, Jim? What's your biggest concern right now? Do you have something that's eating away at you every day? What's the big picture for you?
Yeah, it's in trucking, it's supply chain right now. I think the U.S. is in a very reactive state. It feels like we're not doing anything proactive to get out in front of these things. The trucking issue, some say 80,000. Our stats on our side show we're closer to 200,000 truckers short in North America alone, and that includes Canada. We can sit back and tinker with age, the age limit of truck drivers. It's not going to address the insurance problem and what insurance requires. We can continue sourcing foreign oil and energy because we're digging in here and we want to be green. But the reality is everyone in the oil and gas industry, like on our side, we are trying to be green. We are trying to be sufficient as possible, as that's cheaper and it's cleaner, right?
Yeah.
But when you have those on federal level that are tinkering with items like this, it's very frustrating because we're still in a pandemic. We're still in recovery mode. People need help. People need jobs. Let's focus on those things right there, right? If we could stop sourcing ourselves to Russia. It's not like Russia was a bad guy in the last 30 days, all right? They've been a problem for a long time, and yet here we are for a long time buying 55 million barrels a year of their oil. And why? And it's one of those things that's very frustrating to look at. And then you see the people in Ukraine, and it makes you mad. And you're like, oh, now we're going to stop it. Meanwhile, they've had, the way they treated their own people over the last 20 and 30 years is disgusting. And now all of a sudden we're appalled because what they're doing to Ukraine, and we're shocked. But we just seem very reactive right now. In America, I'm in my 40s, and I didn't see the great 60s and the 70s, but we need to be leaders. And if you're reactive, you're not leading. And I think U.S. needs to reevaluate what it's doing and our standing in the world and be part of the answer. And right now we're just bending but not breaking, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch.
Yeah, I bet. And you're saying to truck drivers that are listening right now, get in touch with you, give you a call?
Here's what I'll say to anybody. If you're out there and you're unemployed or you're not happy with your job, supply chain in general across the U.S. is a fantastic opportunity. Say you're not a truck driver. There are a ton of dispatcher jobs, recruiting, accounting jobs. All these companies are flaring up, all these trucking companies. And just like us, we're fortunate. If you want to come all the way down from beautiful Vermont and come hang with us in hot Texas, that's your call. I don't know if I'd recommend it because it's really hot down here sometimes. But yes, there's fantastic opportunities from folks in the Northeast all the way down to Texas. CCU Energy is a great option for you if you want to get into more oil and gas related items. If not, though, there's a bevy of opportunities. And right now is a fantastic time to jump in, learn something new, and be a part of the solution. Rather than sit back and be unhappy and doing what you're doing and that's not fulfilling you, consider supply chain opportunities nationwide.
Jim, listen, I'm going to, I can guarantee you that I'm going to be calling you again here. This has been fascinating to hear what you have to say.
Sure.
And really eye-opening, and we appreciate your time ever so much.
You're welcome anytime to call.
All right, my friend. We'll be in touch. Thank you, Jim Grundy.
Thank you.
Trucking industry expert, CEO, and owner of CCU Energy, LLC in Texas, live with us this morning. Wow. That's a guy that's got a lot going on. A lot going on. I'm not sure if you heard the governor's press conference yesterday, but one of the topics was the construction bill here in Vermont. A lot of opinions about this, a lot of reaction coming from general contractors everywhere across the state. And among them, Barslow Construction, one of our presenting sponsors here at Aired Out. We are going to be connecting with Rex Thompson, owner of Barslow Construction, and talking about some of the roofing scams that are going around and how to avoid them. The months of March and April are the two most popular months out of the year here in Vermont for roofing projects. So we're also going to drop a link here shortly of 12 of the most popular roofing scams that are going around right now, and a lot of people are being taken advantage of, not just here in Vermont, but just everywhere. So we're going to run those down. We're also going to connect in with Rex. We're going to get him on the air real soon, I promise you. He doesn't know that, but I'm telling you, I'll get him on. Potholes. We've had a promo running here on the podcast now for at least a good week, maybe more like 2 weeks. We're asking you to tell us where the worst pothole is. If you can safely take a picture of it and send it to us, that would be great. If you can't, don't snap a picture while you're driving or anything, because then you'll probably hit another pothole. But if you would like, please do find, just scroll down on our page and you'll see you'll see it right there. Your opportunity to post your comment on where the worst pothole is in Central Vermont. And by doing so, we're going to be reading through them and deciding here real soon which one is, in fact, the best. And we might even pick a runner-up, too, to give you some prizes. We've got aired out hats and mugs, and we would just love to hear from you. So do tell us. I know there's some doozies, and some of them are not that big around, but they're like 12 feet deep. So, and you don't see them until the last minute. And then throw dark in there and maybe a little bit of rain. And there's a lot of folks that are complaining about the potholes. It happens every year this time. And every year I say this. It seems like this is a particularly bad year for potholes. I know you've heard that too. But we want to hear from you, and we thank you for your eyes and your ears. We thank our sponsors, which make it possible each and every day here at the Aired Out Podcast, bringing this to you. We're watching the weather forecast. We got 31 right now and sunny at exactly 10 o'clock. Yes, we are always live, never edited, real, raw, relevant, relatable. That's what we hang our hat on here, and we appreciate you being a part of the podcast. You've got the Aired Out Podcast, yes, live from the ASB Financial Studios and Fly on the Wall Productions, Main Street, Barrie, Vermont.